Miami Dolphins mailbag. Hopefully everybody's having a good Memorial Day weekend, and we're here to answer the questions around the Miami Dolphins. And we're going to start it with the real one himself, that being Frank O'Connor. $10 super chat on our Tuesday live show. Shout out to you, Frank. Hear me out, guys. Trade Tyreek Hill to the Chiefs for their young corner. I assume you're referring to Jaylen Watson. And then trade Jalen Ramsey to get Greg Newsome from the Cleveland Browns. Get younger and way better. Get rid of two problems. Ramsey not getting along. And we all know Hill. Listen, those are two ideas that I've thrown out in the past, and I would absolutely be all in on. I've thrown out this trade idea before, and I would do it in a heartbeat if it was on the table after June 1st, because you got to wait till after June 1st to get the cap relief this year as well as in 2026. But you trade Tyreek Hill to Kansas City, you get Jaylen Watson, the corner, and you get a 5th-round pick in the 2026 draft. Like, sign me up. This was actually the trade idea. Shout out producer Reed for being able to get this on screen. I think that's a deal that if Kansas City looked at their roster and was like, we still needed another guy in the wide receiver room, obviously Xavier Worthy's there, but Rashee Rice, I don't know when he's going to return. I think there's questions about him being suspended based off stuff that happened last offseason. Unsure of that. But if the Chiefs would want to add a wide receiver, they're not going to pay Jaylen Watson. He's on the last year of his rookie deal. We can have him in here, get a first look at him, maybe agree to an extension. Like, I would be all in on that deal. Now, on the second half of that trade, you said trade Jalen Ramsey to the Browns for Greg Newsome. I don't think the Browns would trade for Jalen Ramsey. And I also think you are working lightly with Jalen Ramsey here about a trade, because you're not going to send him to a place he wouldn't want to play, because then he'll just be miserable and then create havoc there, and that other team wouldn't want to do it. But the way you can essentially trade Jalen Ramsey for Greg Newsome is you could trade Jalen to the Rams, a team that wants Ramsey. Say you get a conditional 4th-round pick in return for Ramsey. You can then swap that pick that you got in that Ramsey deal to the Browns for Newsome. Newsome, former 1st-round pick out of Northwestern, entering the final year of his contract, 5th-year option, $13.5 million. So in this hypothetical that Frank threw out, we're getting both Newsome and Watson, who are on the final year of their rookie deals. Newsome much more expensive than Watson, and you'd have to make the decision on extending them. But it would be a good short-term replacement for Jalen Ramsey, a cornerback room of Newsome, Watson, Kader Kohu, and then depth of Cam Smith, Storm Doug. That's a good room. That's actually, I would say, a league average room. So if you were able to do those two moves, I would be absolutely all in. It's a little far-fetched that both happen, but hey, just one of them, I'd be absolutely in on it. All right, we'll finally move on to another question. I feel like I just spent like 6 minutes talking about that. 3 minutes talking about one question. Gavi, what's up, dude? Hey, Nick, if the Dolphins go and beat the Bills twice this year, can they win the AFC East? I mean, yeah. Listen, Miami hasn't been able to beat Buffalo since Mike McDaniel played them the first time in Miami early 2022 season. They're on quite a losing streak to the Buffalo Bills here, including one in the playoffs. But if you were to tell me right now, you blindfold me. All right, I'm blind. Dolphins 17-game schedule here. You win in Week 3 against Buffalo, and you win in Week 10. Well, I mean, you win both those games, you probably should win the AFC East, right? Like, if you beat the Bills twice, you swept that season series, and you don't win the division, what else went wrong? Because if you're good enough to beat the Buffalo Bills in Buffalo and then beat them a second time at home, you should probably be good enough to win 12-plus games. And if you win 12 games and sweep the Bills, you probably have the advantage in the season series and the tiebreaker to win the division. So, yes, Gavini, I don't think it's going to happen, and I don't think it's ever going to happen because the Bills are better at almost every aspect of the game. But if they did somehow beat Buffalo twice, I would expect Miami to be atop the AFC East when it comes to January, yes. Make sure you do follow us over on Instagram. Dolphins Today IG is our handle. We're 16 followers away from 900, which then would put us 100 away from 1,000. Remember, we have a special video coming when we get to 1,000 followers over on Instagram, but we got to get to 900 first. We post short form and other content over there in between our YouTube videos. So if you want more Dolphins coverage, that's the handle. Go give us a follow today. BR with a question. Are the Dolphins close to their 2023 form if they fix their secondary? That's a good question, BR. It's tough to project that. I think it really is. if they were to, but like my thing is like, how are they fixing their secondary? Because in 2023, they had Jalen Ramsey and Xavier Howard. And I don't think X was that good, but that was a pretty solid duo. And you still had Cater Crow in the nickel. Like, I just, to me, don't think they will reach the heights offensively. Now, do I believe the offense that the Dolphins could throw out this year could be more well-balanced than 2023? Potentially. I do actually believe that. But with how the Dolphins took the league by storm on the offensive end with their cheat motion, teams just couldn't defend that. And I don't know if they're reaching that again because they were just so dominant at every level. They were a top 10 rushing team, top 5 passing team, number 1 and number 2 overall offense, any way you want to slice it. I also don't think there's a way that the Dolphins have a good enough safety. Remember that 2023 safety room? It had Javon Holland, it had Deshaun Elliott, it had Brandon Jones. Like, they had dogs. Deshaun Elliott and Brandon Jones were 2 of the best graded safeties last season. Like, I just don't think there's moves Miami could make to get to that level on that back end in the offseason. I love the idea of adding Asante Samuel Jr., adding Rasul Douglas, and replacing Jalen Ramsey, assuming he's traded. But I don't think it's either going to be that close to the 2023 roster now. Every Noodle with a question. Who do you have being the next Van Ginkel, late round pick who makes a dominant presence on the roster? Okay, that's a good question. How do I want to answer this? Do I want to answer from this year's draft class, last year's draft class? I have a hard time giving up on Mohamed Kamara. I do. I really do. Who was the 5th round pick out of Colorado State in the 2024 draft. He's projected to be your 5th edge rusher this year, 4th or 5th, him or Quentin Bell. You have Chop, you have Jalen Phillips, you have Bradley Chubb, and then you have Quentin Bell and Kamara there as your 4th, 5 guys. Kamara, undersized, yes. Didn't get a lot of run his rookie season. Got lapped by Tyus Bowser, who they brought in free agency. Lapped by Quentin Bell. Some others to name, Manuel Agba as well, who they signed to replace Shaq Barrett, who retired. But I just loved that pick, man. Like, he's got a bulldog mentality. He's hungry. He's motivated. And I believe Mohamed Kamara could have a pretty solid year, too. Like, I don't know what that would be, but if you told me at the end of the year that as that 4th, 5th edge rusher, Mohamed Kamara had 4.5, 5 sacks, I wouldn't be shocked. And maybe in year 3, he'd have next season, not this year, but the one after, he's your edge 2 or edge 3 to Chop Robinson / the one you retain between Jalen Phillips and Bradley Chubb. I wouldn't be shocked. I wouldn't be shocked. So I'm going to answer Mo Kamara. I just can't give up on him. I absolutely love Mo. All right. Let me know. Name your top Dolphins free agent target. Who do you want Miami to sign in free agency? Is it a Rasul Douglas? Is it an Asante Samuel Jr., Justin Simmons, Julian Blackmon, an offensive lineman? Let me know your thoughts. Name your top Dolphins free agent target down below. Tyson with a question. Which games on the Dolphins schedule are upsets we need to get to make the playoffs? Okay. Let me try to run through the schedule in my head here. Off the domer. Okay. Upsets where but I also want to categorize when you say upsets, like the Dolphins will be underdogs in these games. Oh, Reed's pulling up the schedule. Thank goodness. Okay. I was trying to run through them, but I was only thinking of, all right, so let's run through the first 8 games here. It's a fun exercise. What games will Miami be up underdogs in? It's basically going to be a pick 'em week 1. They'll be favorites at home in week 2. They're going to be on the road underdogs against the Bills in week 3. Home favorites against the Jets. They'll be favored against the Panthers. Toss-up against the Chargers at home. They'll be favored against the Browns. Think it's a toss-up, but probably slightly underdogs against the Falcons. So let's say in the first 8 games, I think you need to go 6-2 in these 8 games to make the playoffs. If you could somehow upset the Bills in Buffalo in week 3, that puts you on an unbelievable trajectory towards the NFL playoffs. So if you're answering what game would be a massive upset to propel us to the postseason, week 3 against Buffalo in Buffalo would be the no doubt option. Final 9 games of the season. The one that came to mind originally before we pulled up the schedule, you're going to be underdogs at home against the Ravens. You're going to be underdogs against the Bills at home. I think you're going to be underdogs on a neutral site in Madrid, Spain against the Commanders. Can you get one of those games? I had the Dolphins going 10-7 in my record prediction with them losing all 3 of those games. If you can give me one of those games and go 1-2 in that stretch, that gives you some leeway elsewhere in the schedule. I also think they would be underdogs against the Steelers on the road, assuming they have Aaron Rodgers. Toss-ups, New England, Cincinnati, and Bengal. But I'll say this. If you can split the Bills games, go 1-1, and maybe take down the Commanders in Spain. You split the Bills, you beat the Commanders in Spain on a neutral site, and I think you will be in a very good spot to make the playoffs because it gives you some wiggle room to maybe drop one other game in the season. But I think if you were able to, say, in the 4 games against Buffalo, Baltimore and Washington, you go 2-2 in those 4 games. I think you're in a really good spot. Really, really good spot. All right, let's move over to Prize Picks, the daily fantasy sports platform that is making this episode possible. I play Prize Picks every single day, whether it's the basketball playoffs, the hockey playoffs. You can even play some golf, which I'm a big fan of. And with the playoffs and basketball winding down, don't miss your last chance to get your favorite players on the court to your lineup, whether it's points, rebounds, assists. Take your pick of more or less for your shot to win up to 2,000 times your cash today. And you can actually turn your hot takes into tickets to the basketball championship series. Every lineup you make on Prize Picks will enter you into the Takes the Ticket sweepstakes, which could get you and a +1 a VIP trip to the ship. You can play so many different ways. Series long, season long, daily. I have a series long entry for the conference finals in the East. More than Miles Turner, 15.5 points per game. More than Tyrese Halliburton, 8.5 assists per game. And less than Karl-Anthony Towns, 11.5 rebounds per game. 3-player entry there to win 5 times my money, but you can customize the way you play to get 2,000 times your cash today. All you got to do, download the app, use code CLNS when signing up. That gets you a $50 instant and bonus funds after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. Let's move over to my guy Callum. Do you think Waddle should be wide receiver 1 from now on, even if Tyreek Hill stays, considering Hill will be gone next year? I actually kind of do. I like this question. It's one that we don't really talk about often here. I do believe Miami should use Waddle and feature him like they're the wide receiver 1. And unfortunately, that may cause Tyreek Hill to be upset, but I also don't care. As long as it's not detrimental to the locker room, the future of this wide receiver room is without a question Jaylen Wadd. And as I continue to mention, trade or no trade, Tyreek Hill will not be on the Dolphins roster in 2026. He's got a $52.8 million cap hit. And if you cut him after the season, prior to June 1st, you save $36 million in cap space. There is no world where Tyreek Hill is on the roster for the Fins in 2026. So why not start prepping Jaylen Waddle as that lead guy, the one who gets the most targets and is that lead dog in the wide receiver room? Obviously, you're still going to benefit greatly from having both Tyreek and Jaylen, and having him opposite is going to cause a lot of attention to be drawn by opposing cornerback ones, and maybe Jaylen Waddle isn't going against CB ones of the other team. But if you feature him in the offense like he is the wide receiver 1, you know what to expect. He knows what to expect moving forward, and you know what type of wide receiver you might want around Jaylen to complement him. Because when you do inevitably cut Tyreek Hill, next offseason, wide receiver 2 will be a need. As much as I like Malik Washington and I like Westbrook-Ikhine, who's on a 2-year deal, those guys aren't legit wide receiver 2s, at least as of right now. So you'd probably need to add one next offseason. So get an early look at what you think could be the best partner to Jaylen Waddle. Make sure you also are subscribed, because we're talking about next season. We're talking about this season. We're going to be live for every Dolphins game as well when the season commences in August and September. Subscribe now for daily Miami Dolphins content. All right, building fins up, my guy with a question. What would be your next move if Tua misses significant time against this year? Draft a QB. I don't know. There's so many ways you go about this, right? Building fins up. This QB class is on paper projected to be really, really good. Drew Aller. Like him. I do. Maybe Arch Manning comes out. Probably I say no, but who knows? Lenore Sellers from South Carolina, big fan of him. Garrett Nussmeier from LSU, fan of him. Maybe Cade Klubnik from Clemson takes a rise up. Not really high on him personally, but maybe he improves his game. Either way, and either way you slice it. If Tua misses more than 4 or 5 games this year due to injuries, he is no longer the QB1 in the future. Now, what does that mean for you next season? Well, Tua's still going to be your quarterback. Why do I say that? When you look at Tua's contract, it is out. You can get out of it after 2026. There's not that much dead cap after 2026. So if you do have Tua miss a lot of time this year, here's what you do. You draft the quarterback in the first round, assuming you're picking in the top 12 or 13 because Tua missed a lot of time and you stunk this year, right? That's the assumption. You draft him. You have him sit behind Tua in 2026, develop, learn Mike McDaniel's scheme and system, assuming he's still here, but who knows, he might be gone. So, I mean, that's another added aspect to this, right? Who's the head coach? Who's the GM? Is it the same duo? Is it a different duo? If it's a different duo, well, then Tua might just be gone, and they might trade him, and maybe some team tries to pick him up. But if he misses time, I'm not guaranteeing any time in his contract. I'm drafting a quarterback, planning for him to be the starter in 2027. And if he just is unbelievable in preseason and training camp and in practice and he beats Tua out, well, then you start him and you have a very expensive backup quarterback for 1 year and then cut him the year after. That's what I would do if Tua misses time again this year. Tyson, should Chris Grier trade? No, done. I assume you're talking about Deshaun Watson. Nope. Moving on there. Michael Mayer, 2, to replace Julian Hill. I wouldn't hate Michael Mayer, the tight end, third-year guy from Notre Dame, to replace Julian Hill. I mean, the question is like, are you really making a minuscule move? And is Michael Mayer better than Julian Hill? Absolutely. No question about it. But is it worth making a trade? And is the Raiders trading Michael Mayer? I thought there was rumors about them trading him, but that has really quieted down, so I'm not so sure that's going to be something that continues to pop up. In the spirit of conversation, what a question here. We had this pre-planned, by the way, in our mailbag, not even based off that video. Will Chris Grier and Mike McDaniel be here next offseason? While we're here making this video next year in May of 2026, will our head coach still be Chris Grier and or Mike McDaniel, and will our GM still be Chris Grier? I hope so, because if that's the case, that means the Dolphins made the playoffs. If they are not here, that means we probably had a really bad season, and the Dolphins finally made the right move. But let me know your thoughts and predictions down in the comments section. A couple round-out questions here. Last one to be exact. Gav, again. When Miami Dolphins go to Spain to play the Commanders, what if Tua shows the world on a national stage he throws for over 400 passing yards and 4 touchdowns, 0 picks? I'd be happy. I mean, we'd probably win the game, hopefully. This is the question I have, though. What if the Dolphins still go like 7-10? And that's one of their wins. Like, Tua balled out against the Buffalo Bills on the road last year. They lost. What if he balled out against, what was the team he balled out against? Oh, I'm spacing. Oh, the Raiders. In that game they won late. Balled out against the Jets where they won in overtime. Like, you can have a quarterback play really, really well in a game, but still have a bad season. So, I mean, I'm not, like, one big game on an international stage isn't changing my thoughts on a player. So, we'll see. Yeah, it's all right. I'm over it. I am.
Producer Reed popping in real quick. We are live right now. This was meant to be Jaylen Watson, not Deshaun Watson.
Oh, okay. Yeah, absolutely trade for Jaylen Watson, like we said at the start of the show with that Frank O'Connor super chat. Owen, Chiefs aren't going to extend him, and if they're not going to extend him, they might just trade him and get something back in return because they develop corners at a really rapid rate. So, yeah, let's go in and trade for Jaylen Watson. I'm all in on that. All right, I'll do it for today's mailbag. Make sure you do follow us on Instagram at Dolphins Today IG. That's our handle for more content outside of our YouTube. But also, if you missed out on the mailbag and the live show Tuesday afternoon, which we're live every Tuesday afternoon on Dolphins Today, you can ask a question to us over on Instagram. So make sure you go give us a follow right now.